People, was popping? What's going on? We got my dude Rashidi Locario back in the building. Woo! Saying to give y'all some of this money game. You feel me?
Real name, no gimmicks.
Exactly. To give y'all some of this game. So today we're gonna be talking about bankruptcy and all that other good stuff. So what the hell is bankruptcy? Because does that mean that you're fucked up forever? Like you ain't got no money, or what does that mean in the first place for those who don't know? So what does it mean to be bankrupt? What does that mean to the game as far as money is concerned, and trying to build businesses or whatever it is? Like take everybody through the whole thing. You feel what I'm saying?
Gotcha. Yeah, no, Ms. Locario, just like you said, bankruptcy pretty much is you ran out of money, you can't pay everybody, and you tired of the bill collectors calling you, and you can't get out of that debt, so you ask the government for help to bail you out.
Right. That's what's up. So wait, but so let's say you have a person, so this goes for like anybody could go they can file bankruptcy. Like a regular person and a business could also file bankruptcy. It's not just for businesses, right?
Correct.
Cool. And so if, let's say for, most of the people that's probably watching who aren't business owners, why would a person file for bankruptcy, and what does that do? How does that help them in the long run?
Yeah, so I mean, bankruptcy, the thing about it, there's no right answer, but this is what I'll tell you. Bankruptcy is for people when you're just in over your head. Typically bankruptcy, they want you to have, not want you, but you typically have to have at least $20,000 to $30,000 worth of debt minimum type of thing.
Right.
And essentially you in over your heads, you can't pay the bills back. And at this point, everybody's coming after you, whether it's personal or if you have a business, and you can't pay overhead. And now it's affecting your cost of living, where you can't even afford to live because of the bankruptcy. And you pretty much you're just a point of no return, and you need some help, or else it's going to push you over the edge. And so what happens in those situations is when you file bankruptcy now, it's like they say, hey, all right, the government erases your debt. They review everything thoroughly. It's a couple different type of bankruptcies. You got Chapter 7, Chapter 13. One, they liquidate your assets. The other, they just take everything. You know what I mean? So there's a couple differences. But the point is, though, the government erases your debt, says, all right, you went over your head, you're totally irresponsible, whatever, you did everything wrong, but we're going to bail you out this one time. And what will happen is, depending on which bankruptcy you go with, if you go with the one where because there's one where you can still pay back, and they help erase some of your debts. And then there's one that they completely wipe out everything as if it didn't happen. The catch is, that one, which is Chapter 7, that one lasts on your credit for 10 years. So you can still do things, but everybody can see it for 10 years. The other one lasts for 7 years and is not as bad, but pretty much is just a fresh start. Of course, the catch is, again, it drops it plummets your credit score. It's like being a baby again. You start from scratch,
That's crazy. And so let's say a business is going bankrupt. How does that affect I guess the actual business? Like, can the business still do business even though they went bankrupt? Can they still like re-up again and continue, or is there a certain protocol, or do they have to like start a new business? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, no, they have to start a new business. That's why whenever business go bankrupt, because everybody that business owes, that person owns, that business owes whoever they owe. That's why they can't have that business anymore. It's bankrupt. It's wiped away. Those people that owe their money, that want their money back, can't pursue them anymore because they're bankrupt. So that's why they have to start fresh with a new business, start with a new variation. That's why, perfect example, you see Trump and you hear Trump fail with so many businesses. That's why. That's why you hear him say he failed so many businesses. He literally failed many other businesses. So, yeah.
And then how do those people, like, let's say a business owes another company money or whatever, how do those people get their money back? They just shit out of luck. It's a wrap.
Yeah, it's a write-off. It's a tax write-off. That's the way the term comes, a charge-off for businesses or a charge-off for personal, where a company says, all right, we're never going to be able to recoup our money back, so we're going to write it off as a tax write-off, as a business loss, and they kind of get some money back in taxes to compensate for some of the loss. Of course, they don't get all their money back, but, between insurance and the tax write-off, they get some of their money back,
Right. And so what are some ways that a person can prevent themselves from becoming to, from having to file bankruptcy? Like, let's say, what are some tactics or some things people could have in place to where they never get into that position where they have to file bankruptcy and all that other stuff?
I mean, the truth is, it's really just goes down to as simple as a person's handling skills, how they handle pressure, to be honest with you. Because the reality of the situation is we all know when we're in over our heads. But you got the person that realizes that they're in over their heads, and you got the person that just keeps going like it's like the gambler. Like, let one more roll of the dice. Let me play one more card. Like, you just got to know when to call it a quits. I mean, some of the angles is whenever you're behind 30 days or 60 days, whenever it becomes a habit more than one or two bills, that's when you want to start talking to these organizations and working out payment plans and see if they have any options because you came on hard times. Because the reality of the situation is when you come on hard times, a lot of banks and people you borrow loans from car loans or credit cards to student loans, everybody has hardship programs. So a good way to answer your question, Mr. Lucario, is to check what hardship program whatever or whoever you owe money to has. And then if that runs out, that's when you have to be like, all right, I may need to consider bankrupt if you have a whole bunch of things going on. Right. Because the reality is if you have one or two things, you can manage. But if you're a business, you got your personal going on and you got your hand in 8 different pots, it becomes unbearable if everything goes awry all at one time. But if you jump into the hardship programs, check with everybody, work out payment plans, talk to your creditors or who you owe money, they'll work with you because they don't want you to go bankrupt. They want their money. So even if you're paying them 100 out of 300, they'll hold on as long as possible because they want to get as much money as possible. So they'll work with you. So the first step, talk to your lender, see what they can do, what they can work out, and push come to shove, go the hardship route, which is usually life-changing events. You lost your job, mentally or psychologically, something went wrong. You're battling depression, anxiety, all kinds of things, and all kinds of avenues you can go down and claim for hardship, because it's a real hardship. Come on hard times.
Right. And so when you said that, if it's a personal, if you what is it? You filed Chapter 7. Is that you said that stays on your record for 10 years? So
Chapter 7, Chapter 7 will stay for 10 years. Correct.
Chapter. What does that mean? Chapter 7, and what is it? What does that mean?
Yeah. So with Chapter 7, that one, it what they do is they pretty much erase all your debt completely. Right. And so therefore, that's why it stays on longer because they let you get a complete fresh start. Whereas in Chapter 13 now, they'll work with you. They'll erase some of your debt and they allow you to work out a payment plan, kind of like a debt consolidation when you consolidate all your debt. It's like a combination where they let you consolidate all your debt, lower the payments. You're still in the bankruptcy stage, so you don't have to pay back everything, but they allow you to the government works out an agreement for you essentially to kind of reduce that debt, and they'll assess what you have, your properties and things like that. And they actually for Chapter 7, they actually let you keep that. Chapter 13, I'm sorry, Chapter 13, they actually let you keep your stuff. So the good thing about that is you don't lose your car, you don't lose your house. They just work out something like, hey, we worked out with them. The government says we worked out something with them. They're gonna pay you back slowly but surely. You can't take their stuff.
Right. And so let's say you file for Chapter 7 and you got to do that whole 10-year bid, right? So what happens? Like let's say you wanted to get a loan from the bank, is that impossible at that point? Because you file for bankruptcy, they're like, fuck out of here. Is that the situation?
Listen, like I tell all my clients, call RKT, nothing's impossible. Right. Honestly, what happens is at that point, the closer you're in it, so if it's fresh, right, you're gonna have a hard time. I'm not gonna lie to you. If you're within the first 2-3 years, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. But what I will tell you, somebody out there will give it to you, right? But it's gonna be a needle in the haystack, and to be quite honest with you, they're gonna kill you with interest if they do approve you. Now, outside of that 3-year window, people gonna start trusting you a little more. They still gonna give you a higher interest rate. It's still gonna be harder, but it's less harder. And as time goes on, it's less harder and less harder. Year 6, 7 is like, all right, cool. And then finally year 10 is like, they don't see it, it's gone. It's like getting a pardon. Like I always use the felon reference. It's like having a pardon after 10 years. Most times You don't have to put on an application. You're still supposed to. I'm not saying that, but the point is, after 10 years, when it's pretty much gone and you're done with it, and they can't use it against you at all at that point.
Right. And so, like, is there a way, or I should say, I should ask this: would you recommend people to file for bankruptcy, or do you recommend them to just like tough it out? Like, what do you think is like the best situation for most people?
You know, that's a good question. I mean, to be honest with you, it's truly up to the individual and their goals. The reality of the situation is, if you have a business and you're going bankrupt, it might make sense for you to go bankrupt because you get a fresh start. Right. It just means that you got to get your stuff together and make no more mistakes at all for like 3 years. That's all it really means, truth be told. But if you're a person that just like, oh man, like, yeah, I'm just going to willy-nilly file bankruptcy, it's going to affect you forever because you're not really doing what you're supposed to be doing to get back to where you were, because you're starting from scratch now with this bankruptcy. So it's really about the person and what goals they have. The reality of it is just that person's personality, because if you file bankruptcy, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing because you can't make no mistakes. You have to be on time. You have to make stuff, pay stuff on time. It's kind of back to the, and I hate to use it, but the felon record is one of those things where you're on probation. You're on probation with bankruptcy too, but you're on probation. So it's like, hey, listen, you can't mess up. So it's really just up to the person, to be honest with you.
Right. So let's say you have a business that went bankrupt, right? And they're like, okay, the companies that they probably owed money to, they ain't getting the money. Now let's say it's an actual employee or a freelance person who's not necessarily like a company that was owed money from that company that went bankrupt. Is that person shit out of luck, or is there a way?
They're shit out of luck. Exactly. The reason being at that point in time is that, you know, since the other person claimed bankruptcy, they no longer pursue him. You know what I mean? It's just like the mafia when he say he's untouchable, he's a made man. Right. Same concept. They can't go after him. They done. What they got to do at that point is do a tax write-off and try to recoup something back, which it could vary. You know, it's like, yeah, I don't know the math, but generally speaking, from my knowledge, you know, it's about like 10 to 20% of your money you get back. So you get back something from a tax write-off, but you lost, you know.
Yeah. I want to say something real quick. Is that what people need to understand about like businesses, and which is why you have to go through the process of like starting an LLC, or, you know, like every business has its own identity with the government, right? Which is why when you get a business, you have to get what's called the EIN number, an employee identification number. Excuse me, employer identification number, right? Meaning that you're a business that is able to employ people. It's basically a social security number for a business.
Right.
So with that being understood, you also understand that a business itself is a separate entity, right? And when a business files for bankruptcy, what you're basically saying is that it's the same thing as if the person associated to a certain social security number is deceased.
Right.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But with the bankruptcy, it's referring to a business entity, right? So when you get a bankruptcy, it's like, well, that business has died. You understand? That business is dead. So you can't get no money from that business because that business or that EIN number or the business associated with that EIN number is not conducting business anymore. There's no profit. There's no, the employees are being paid. No one is being paid from this entity at all anymore. It is dead. It's a dead entity. So that's what a bankruptcy allows you to do, which is why people file for bankruptcy, and which is why it makes sense for you to do everything separate from yourself as look, you could like, for example, like, we could say all of the shit we talk and do these shows, and we can be running this whole thing under our own social security numbers if we wanted to. Right. But if we say something, be like, yeah, go up to a girl and say this in her left ear, and he goes up to a girl and he says something in her left ear, and the girl turns around and stabs him and paralyzes him from the waist down. He comes back and he says, yo, you told me to go say something like this in some girl's ear, and that's why I'm paralyzed. He can't sue me personally. He can only sue the business.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's why you have to separate things. You have to separate things. Like, for example, if you own a store and the land around the store and somebody trip and fall, they can't sue you personally. They can only sue the business that land is on. You understand what I'm saying? Or that the business that's on that land. So you basically, it's protection. You understand? You understand? 'Cause things happen all the time. Things just fucking happen. You understand?
Right.
Like, for example, you run in a business, somebody trip and fall in the ice or the snow, and they sue you for millions of dollars. Meanwhile, you only make $100,000 a year. You looking at them like, well, you could go ahead and sue if you want to, but I'm filing for bankruptcy now because I can't afford that shit. And this can, because you personally, you can have $1 million in the bank, but if the business that they're trying to sue only makes $100,000 a year, that's what they're suing. They're not suing you, they're suing the business. You see what I'm saying? So they could try to sue for $1 million because they think you have $1 million, but at the end of the day, they can only sue the business where they tripped and fell at. You see what I'm saying? And if that business is only making $100,000 a year, it makes more sense for that person to either, settle out of court or try to ask for less money. You understand what I'm saying? That's how the thing works, where you do all these things to protect yourself. You understand? So when you stand in there in court, hey, Your Honor, I'm a billionaire, but he trying to sue my $100,000 company. So that's as much as I could give him, the $100,000. You understand what I'm saying? So that protects your personal wealth. You understand? So that's why all of this shit is important. And that's why certain people structure things the way that they do.
Right.
And then the people that look like us and come from the places we come from, they're like, nigga, I don't need all that shit. I could just sell these mixtapes out my trunk.
Right. Exactly.
I could sell these bean pies on the street. Like it's nothing. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to go through all of that and this, that. But you sell a bean pie to somebody and they choke on the bean pie, and you don't have no entity separate from yourself that's responsible for the sale of the bean pies, then they can sue you and ruin your whole life.
Right. Exactly.
The cool part about the bankruptcy is that after you go bankrupt, you dissolve the business, the registration of the business goes to zero. You don't have to pay no more taxes with that business. And at the same time, all of the monies that you owe through that business is null and void at this point. So now you can literally go and start a new business and start, like Rashidi said, you could start fresh. And so you have a fighting chance to continue your business career. You understand? Right. So that's why people, they look at all these people like Donald Trump. We talked about Donald Trump on the last show, and dudes like Warren Buffett and all these people. They love all of this shit because the better the lawyer they have is the more they could go through the loopholes. You know, that's why you hear about shit like, rich dudes only paying like 5% in taxes because they get all of the loopholes. Why? Because they have all of these things that I'm talking about in place. You see what I'm saying? Business registrations, insurances, and tax write-offs, and all these different things that, having a certain credit score allows you certain freedoms with the IRS and all these different things. It all makes a difference. And the more you understand about it, is the easier it is for you to play the game and to get your money right, just like the rest of these other people. Because seriously, a lot of people would sit there and be like, oh yeah, I can't succeed in business because somebody's holding me down and all of this and all of that. But the truth is, you didn't review the game, the rules of the game.
Right.
You understand? Because the bean pie guy, he didn't know about registering his business as a separate entity. But then when somebody sues him for choking on a bean, he looking at them like, oh man, that's just the system trying to keep me down. No, the system told you that you register your business, but you ain't want to do it.
Right.
Like, I don't need all that. I'm from the hood, nigga. I don't need all that shit. No, you need it too. You need it too, because anything can happen in business, in the world of business. Like the business is a whole new monster when you're dealing with business. You understand? Right. People try to sue you. People try to defame you. People will try to like ruin your shit. And when all you have to do is file for bankruptcy, dissolve the business, and then start another business.
Right.
You could do that shit within a week. Right back in business under a new name, doing your thing. But you know what I'm saying? But you have to have those things set up in the beginning in order for you to be able to, take advantage of those of those of those things that they put in place.
Right. Explosive. How do you go about registering your business with EIN?
All right. Well, literally, you got to look at what city it's registering your business has to do with the city, the city or the state that you live in. It has to be registered with the city or the state. So you can literally go to the, like, for example, if you live in, Washington, D.C., go to the WashingtonDC.gov site and look up how to register a business, or you could just Google it. Whatever city you live in, you say how to register, how to register a business in the city of whatever.
Right.
And then usually you have to be careful, because I'm gonna tell you this, only because I've been through it a few times, is that there are some companies that they will register your business for you, meaning that they will submit the paperwork for you, but they'll charge you like $100-$200 more than you would have to pay if you went directly to the city. So I just want to talk about that real quick. So basically, when you're registering your business, you're looking for .org or .gov behind the website. If you .com, usually it's a business. They'll still do it for you. Don't get me wrong, but they will charge you an extra arm and a leg just to do it, to do it for you and to add certain things to it that you don't really need. Right. So when you're registering your business, look for .gov, .dov, or .org, right? Like for example, in Florida, where I used to live, to register your business was sunbiz.org. You understand? So go to that website and you can register your business. Now, if you want to do your EIN, you simply have to go to the IRS.gov website, and then there should be a part that says how register for a new EIN. EIN is free. It's literally just a newly generated number. And then once you get that number, and those two things don't go together. You can have a business registered with your city or state, and it doesn't have anything to do with the EIN. You understand? So you could get the EIN first and then attach it to your business, or you can get the business first and then attach it to the EIN. And the only attachment is what because where it really works together is you're going to go to the bank, because now you have to start a separate bank account. Everything has to be separate. You know? So your personal bank account won't be different from your business bank account. Right. So now you go to the bank and you say, hey, I got a business. I want to start a business account. Then they're going to ask you, what's the name of your business? Then they're going to ask you, do you have an EIN number? The EIN number, like I said, is the social security number for your business. So now the money that starts to come in and go out is under that EIN number. And that's when you begin to talk about your business credit score and all these other things. You understand what I'm saying?
And to go even deeper, Miles, just like you said, everything you said is 100% accurate, and I love it, because that's some excellent points with the .com, because a lot of companies, they charge you anywhere from, like you said, $200 to $1,000 to register a business with something you can do. And to piggyback even further of why you want to go to the state website, because the state website does everything for you. What do I mean by that? You go to start up a business, they have every single scenario on how to register a business, what to look for. They search a database to make sure your business name is not the same as everybody. Because let's be honest, sometimes we have the same idea other people have, and you want to register your business as Jason Johnson's, and you're like, oh yeah, and then now there's two Jasons Johnsons out there. Now you're in trouble. So it's good to go out there and go to the state website. On top of that, it actually redirects you to the other site to do the EIN number. So it's one-stop shop. So you do it all in-house. On top of that, everything is there for you to read. Truth is, it's a lot of reading. So I'm not going to tell you to read everything. I am going to tell you to read everything. You should always read everything. But if you don't, try to read at least 80% of what you're signing up for, because with the state websites, it breaks down the different types of businesses and how to register it, from going what Miles said with an LLC, a sole proprietorship, and things of that nature. And that's very important to go back to how you can get sued. For example, you want to own a business, you can, but if you talk to IRS or you're not paying attention or you have a company do it for you, they won't explain things to you. So you might register it as a sole proprietorship, which means you're the business owner, you solely own it, you file it with your regular taxes, AKA you can get sued directly, AKA you own a house, they can take your house, they can take everything. But you registered as an LLC, like Miles was saying, It's all on the business. They can only take what the business has, not what you have. So be careful how you're registering and pay attention and ask these questions. It's vital. And tax implications is a whole nother topic. But the point is, the state website is the way to go, in my personal opinion, as well as Miles.
I want to say something too, man. Just do an LLC. Just do an LLC. And understand that, listen, scared money don't make money. You understand? Because, for example, I literally just registered a business this week. That shit came out to like $128, right? And not to, and that was me going directly to the state, the state website where I did it right, instead of having a third party company try to scam me out of my money. But what I'm saying is, and the other thing you have to realize is that there's something called the annual report. So every year you have to pay a certain amount. So I told you it costs like $128, right? It was like $125 plus $3 for a processing fee. And the annual report is going to be like $85. So I got to pay that every single year. Okay. And the reason why I say this is that everybody who thinks about starting a business, there are things that you have to understand that is a cost to do business.
Right.
Okay. Like, for example, that thing where, so you register your business, but things happen from year to year. So this year, your business address might be one thing, but maybe you moved, right? Or maybe you got, like 6 more employees or some shit like that. So every year you have to update your report. You understand? That's basically what you pay for.
Right.
So you starting off $120 something, maybe $200, depending on the state. Then you paying another $100 every year for that report every year. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to understand that when you're doing a business, money got to be spent. You understand? So we can't be afraid to spend money. We have to understand that it's the cost of doing business. You understand? If you want to do shit out here, you got to have money. You got to understand that there's certain things that are going to need to be paid for. So I say that to say this: if you're sitting there on the state website and it says sole proprietorship only costs $49.99, but LLC costs $150. Don't be cheap and get the sole proprietorship.
Right.
Don't do that, because like Rashidi said, with a sole proprietorship is basically you registering a business name, but everything as far as the number, the tax number, or the social security number, or the number for the business is associated to you. You understand? So you got to pay a few dollars more to make sure that your business entity is separate from you. Do that shit.
Right.
Understand? Don't be cheap, because what people don't realize is that being cheap can get very expensive.
Facts.
You understand? So be willing to pay that bread. You got a website you need to put up, pay that bread to get the website put up. I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can do that are cheap. You can check out Vistaprint, you can check out Fiverr to go the cheapest possible route, but don't be cheap just for the sake of being cheap. Like, be responsible and be willing to spend a little bit of bread, especially when you setting up those basic things like the business registration for the LLC and having a decent website and all that other type of shit.
Right. And so William Thompson, could they still sue if you have a SM LLC? What's that?
Yeah, so that's a single member LLC.
Oh, okay. I never heard that shit.
Oh yeah. It's literally just, that's what it is, single member LLC. So it's just one of those things where you're just a single owner LLC, and you're responsible for reporting all your income. So all it is just saying is just pretty much that it's just me, only me, and I'm taking on a full responsibility to make sure I'm doing everything tax-wise properly. But to answer the question, at the end of the day, with the single LLC, no, it's still separated as a separate business, so you wouldn't get sued.
Can I say something real quick for those who don't know? LLC means limited liability company or corporation. Limited liability. That's the part that keeps you protected. Limited liability, meaning if something happens, you're only liable as far as the company goes. You understand? It's a limited liability. So like I said, if the person trip and fall in front of your storefront, they can only sue the company because it's a limited liability situation. You get what I'm saying?
And people say, can I register a business tomorrow if I wanted to, even if I didn't make any money yet?
Of course you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Of course you can. But like I said, to register the business, you're gonna have to pay that registration fee. So if you didn't make any money yet, or you have no money, you can't register the business without money. Matter of fact, the only thing without money, the only thing you could probably do is get a register for an EIN number. That's the only thing that's absolutely free in starting a business.
And so what's the point of having a sole proprietorship?
So I mean, with a sole proprietorship, honestly, all it really is that, again, going back to what Miles was saying, is trying to cut corners and be cheap. It's just pretty much saying, going with a sole proprietorship, you can register business, but you can get sued and you take on full responsibility. It's kind of like a 1A and a 1B type of concept, where when you do a sole proprietorship, you don't have to file separate taxes because you are the business 100%. So a sole proprietorship is just that. Like, all right, you cut in the corner, but that's why you can get sued. That's why we can go to taxes. You're going to save money because you don't have to file separate taxes. But a LLC now, it's limited liability. So it's not personal liability like Miles was saying. So it's none of your personal stuff. And you have to pay extra for it because you're limited to that. You know, that you can only get got for what that business has. Right. If that answers the question.
Right. You know. I mean, there are some specific situations that, you know, that a sole proprietorship works. Like there are some businesses or some situations where you just need to have stuff registered so it looks official, but maybe you're not actually providing like an extended service, or you're not even providing a product, so to speak. Like sometimes, for example, like you might have a situation where you're inheriting money from a relative, right? But within the stipulations, they might say some shit like, well, I'll only give them the money if they have a registered business, and I'll only pay them the money through that business, or some shit like that. Right? Because maybe your granddad want you to understand what entrepreneurship means, or whatever. So they put that in their will. So you can say, all right, cool. Let me just go down and register for a sole proprietorship real quick so I can receive that money from my inheritance, or something like that. You get what I'm saying? Where it's just certain situations where in order to move the money, you might need for something to be registered with the state. So you might just do a sole proprietorship. You know what I'm saying? But in general, LLC is the best way to go.
Exactly. And I guess the main thing to say about it, honestly, the simple way of saying too, is sole proprietorship, you're taking sole ownership and responsibility of everything. Right. That's the best way to look at it. And what it means too is that if someone sues you, to go back what Miles said, now after they're done, and so you can get insurance, and the differences between an LLC and sole proprietorship, you can get insurance for both, business insurance for both. But guess what? With a sole proprietorship, after they're done milking your insurance policy, they then could go after stuff that you have.
Right.
So your insurance policy for $200,000, and they have a valid case for $500,000. They're gonna take that $200,000 from the insurance company. Better yet, let me rephrase that. The insurance company gonna say, this is worth $500,000. We pay them a max out your policy of $200,000. They on their own now, send you on the way. Now they're gonna take you to civil court and take everything that they can take from you. Now, if you had an LLC, they would have just stopped at that because they can't get no more money. But sole proprietorship is you're taking on sole responsibility for a lot of things. That's why the government's saying, hey, you don't have to get charged extra taxes because you're taking on the bigger responsibility. You know what I mean? But if you want an LLC and want protection, then get the LLC. We're going to charge you more because we're protecting you. Back to the mafia thing. You are protecting your made man, so you're good to go to a certain extent. You know.
So we got another question. So what's the best way to invest $100,000?
I mean, that man, it's more than how many ways to skin a cat, they say. I
know,
man,
that's a personal question, but I would just say that if you got $100,000 burning a hole in your pocket and you don't know what to do with it right now, I would say put it in a mutual fund or buy some stocks. You know what I'm saying? That's what I would say. If you really just sitting on $100K and don't know what to do with it, you know what I mean?
Or the safe route. Another safe route on top of that makes you money and gives you dividends. Yeah. Get a house. Right now, the way the market is, the interest rate is at a historically low price. You have $100,000. You can go live in a house, put a down payment. You put a 20% down payment because you have the cash. Put that in that house, and go on and live in it and get a rate of return, get a great interest rate. Or option two, go ahead and get a little multifamily, put that $50,000-$60,000 down on that house, and that house will probably bring you about $1,500 to $3,000 a month, depending on where you at, of course, of profit a month, and that money slowly grows and grows and grows. And that 50,000-70,000 you put down, or that 100,000 in 5 years, that might have made you 150,000-60,000 just by doing nothing for the most part. Of course, you got to maintain your tenants and things like that, but you catch my drift.
Right. Yeah, to see, and that's the difference between like buying some mutual funds with that money or putting it in a mutual fund market or fucking with the real estate. If you're lucky enough to get good tenants and just get a good situation, then or if you want to buy your own house. Right. Because if you find a nice house in your neighborhood, like let's just say Adrian D is living with his parents right now, and no disrespect, because I know niggas get sensitive, but I'm saying let's just say you living with your mom right now, and but you've been saving your money and you're at 100K, like nigga, like get yourself a nice condo or buy yourself a house, put a really nice down payment on the house to the point where let's just say you could get a house for $250 and you could put a down payment of like $60. You know what I'm saying? And then you use a couple, like maybe another 10,000 to like, make some improvements into the house, right? You can live in that shit for 2 to 3 years. And then like Rashidi was talking about, 2 years, maybe 2 to 5 years, you could turn around and sell that house for a lot more than you bought it for. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And make a profit right there. Or you could look into you could Airbnb that house. Let's just say you bought a house or a condo downtown or something that's really nice and posh. You could turn that shit into an Airbnb or something like that. So there's a lot of things you can do. But like I said, if it's just burning a hole in your pocket and you have no idea what to do, I would say get on Vanguard and throw that money into Vanguard and let it sit while you decide on what you're trying to do. You see what I'm saying? Because while it's in a mutual fund, because like I told y'all the other day, my Robinhood portfolio, let me see where it's at right now. My Robinhood portfolio is at, oh no, wait, that's Nike. Yeah, hold on. My Robinhood portfolio is performing at 16% right now. Okay, so let's just look at it. At 16%, that's $100,000 my man said he got, right? Times 0.16. That's $16,000 by the end of the year.
Right. That's crazy.
So my nigga, Adrian D, if it's taking you a whole year to figure out what to do with the money, if you put it in a decent mutual fund or you buy some stocks with your Robinhood, like how I'm doing, and you performing at 16%, you coming off with $16,000 by the end of the year.
Right. And you didn't even do nothing.
And you ain't doing shit. Divided by 12. Let's divide that by 12. You're looking at $1,300 extra a month. And that's just by, like I said, putting it in a mutual fund or buying a bunch of stocks. Like you could literally just attach the shit, put it in your Robinhood and buy Nike, Tesla, Apple, and maybe, like Walmart or some shit. Buy that into those 4 companies.
Right.
And you get, and the average Robinhood portfolio is decent at like 12%, 8-9%. You understand what I'm saying? Let me do it one more time. 100,000, right? 100,000 times 0.16, 16%. See, $16,000.
That's crazy.
Love it.
And that's for the year. That's for the year.
And one last tip. Call RKT. You can invest that in life insurance. Good thing about jumping into life insurance, tax free. That money to your life insurance policy, you get a policy, especially depending on the age you're at. Insure yourself. You can borrow from that policy, and it's an investment because it's tax free. And if you put in an index policy in the IUL, it'll grow with the stock market. On top of that, you lock in that rate at that you're at now. So when you 75 years old and you come across a critical illness, God forbid, you will have that money up front for you while you living because you get those living benefit. Or if you die, not only did the policy accumulate money, but you can borrow from it, or if you die, you can pass that on to somebody else. So you can get a policy for $200,000, $100,000. You will leave generational wealth for all your family members. Don't matter if you don't have kids. Whoever's close to your best friend, anybody, you can literally change their lives for the rest of their lives and make money at the same time doing it and protecting yourself. And you're going to need it because you're going to die sometime and you're going to get sick sometime. Sorry to say it. We don't like to talk about it, but it's the truth.
Right.
That's some real shit. That's some real shit. So as we're about to wrap up, what are some other things that people could, look out for when it comes to, starting a business and also, having to deal with bankruptcy if that ever comes up? You know what I'm saying? What are some tips?
All right, hold on. There's a question right here real quick. It says, I got boats to rent on Airbnb. Do I need Hell yeah, you need an LLC, nigga. What if the boat goes down and niggas drown?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you better get a fucking LLC.
Mm-hmm.
Because you talking about boats. I mean, the average building could go up in flames at any fucking time. We talking about a boat sitting on water.
Mm-hmm.
In the habit of protecting your assets, like Miles said. Like seriously, you got. That's the thing about it, though. That's the name of the game. Though you got to protect your assets. It's one thing to get to a certain status, but once you get to that status, you actually got to start protecting yourself. Because, like you said, you got the boats. At any time somebody gets hurt, they coming after you if you don't have an LLC. Because again, in your situation, we're just assuming based on what you just said, you don't have an LLC. So therefore, if you have insurance, when they're done with that insurance, that money that you made, whether it's $10,000 or $500,000, they coming after that. That's 2021. People suing for everything. Look at what's going on with Deshaun Watson in football. My man has 19 cases. I don't know if they true, but 19 cases right now.
One of them.
Everybody coming for your money. Protect your assets.
Protect it. And remember too, you got to know about this too. Like these websites like Airbnb and VBRO, they do provide insurance, but their insurance protects the customer. You understand what I'm saying? Mostly they protect you too, but they mostly protect the customer. But as what Rashidi was saying, once that insurance runs out, they coming after you next.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Because at some point, Airbnb is going to be like, "Hey, we did all we could do to help you with this situation. Right. We paid them a certain amount based on what the lawyer said, but we're done." Then the customer, because they child drowned in the boating accident or whatever the hell it is, they still coming for you because they feel salty about their child dying, right? So you do need a LLC, very much so.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
All right.
So Rashidi, let people know where they can find you, where they could get in contact with you, all that other stuff.
Definitely. So check the website out, www.rktappraisals.com. Call 973-420-5028. Also, our email is rktconsultations@gmail.com. And reach out to us. We actually got a credit webinar coming up this Friday at 7 p.m. Get the Zoom link. Don't miss it. Call RKT. As you see, with all of us on this panel, we're well versed. We know what we're talking about. So even if you want to call us and sit down and talk for half an hour, we have the right information. And if we don't have the right information, we're going to get it for you and tell you we don't. We're not going to feed you nonsense. So don't miss the webinar coming up this Friday, 7 p.m. RKT Appraisals. Get your life insurance. We got it. Get your credit fixed. We got it. Protect your house. We got it.
That's what's up. That's what's up. That's what's up. So, guys, we appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure you share this video with your people so they know how to, start these businesses. You feel what I'm saying? And understand how to deal with the bankruptcy situation and all that other good stuff. All right. So we're out of here, people. Remember, the truth is inside you. Peace.